After hiding it from the Iron Maiden fans for 8 years, Bruce Dickinson finally released the demo version of If Eternity Should Fail.
Yeah, unbelievable.
So let's take a deeper look into it, compared to the version that has made it on the Book of Souls and that we already know, and then see how this Iron Maiden tune would have sounded like without Steve Harris's magic touch. Here you go. So, in case you have no idea what's going on, together with the first single from his upcoming solo album, The Afterglow of Ragnarok, Bruce Dickinson also released the demo version of the opening track for Iron Maiden's album, The Book of Souls, which he has originally written as a title track for his next solo record. Yet after Steve Harris heard the demo Bruce and Roy Z recorded back in the day, Iron Maiden's founder loved it so much that he convinced Bruce to include it on the band's 16th studio album. The intro to If Eternity Should Fail pretty much remained unchanged compared to the first demo. Well, not counting Bruce not audibly clearing his throat on the Iron Maiden recording.
Here is the cell of a man, here in this place for the taking.
The demo of If Eternity Should Fail was produced in 2014 in Roy Z's living room. I played the keyboard intro, which I intended to replace, and Roy was on bass and all guitars. The title actually comes from a Doctor Strange episode, and early on I wanted the track to open the next solo album. Maiden opted in 2015 to use the track on the Book of Souls. We re-recorded it but kept the intro from Roy Z's living room, including my dodgy keyboard, said Bruce Dickinson in the liner notes for the Afterglow of Ragnarok single, which I am still waiting to get on vinyl, and for now I'm bound to enjoy only digitally.
Why, God, why?
And so the first clear difference between the Iron Maiden and the demo versions of the song comes with the first verse. For unlike the almost identical intros, the verse part of the song was originally significantly slower than the one we heard on the Book of Souls. Interestingly enough, despite the Iron Maiden version of the song being played at a much higher BPM, it is actually significantly longer than the demo, of which we will of course talk later on in this video.
Yep.
And afterwards, towards the end of the first verse and right before the chorus kicks in, Bruce also decides to slightly change the lyrics of the final line. The change, which, to be honest with you, remains a mystery to me, as in all honesty, both of the versions seem equally fine to me, and the original line would have fit just well with the new tempo.
Recalls our numbers and lose your mind. Lose your mind. Recalls our number. How bad
Yet the effect of the changed tempo on the song's feeling and perception is most felt in its chorus, as overall I have to point out that the Iron Maiden version of If Eternity Should Fail has much more dynamic than Bruce Dickinson's demo, and the chorus is the part which Steve Harris's arrangement has transformed the most, sacrificing some of the darkness of the original track in exchange of making this song more melodic and yet more aggressive at the same time to fit the overall mood of the Book of Souls album.
Waiting sail for the edge of the world. If eternity should fail, waiting in line for the ending of time. If eternity should fail.
And by the way guys, here I just wanted to very quickly point it out that only around 30% of the people who are watching my videos are actually subscribed to the Metal Pilgrim channel. So if for some reason you still haven't done so yet, and especially if this is not your first Up the Irons video you're watching on the channel, please consider doing this right now. Let's continue building this amazing heavy metal community together.
We're gonna have a good time. Always.
But there's clearly a problem with playing a just 7-minute long song at a much higher pace, for it might become not long enough for modern day Iron Maiden. And so, in order to make the updated version of If Eternity Should Fail more Maiden-esque, Steve Harris in fact did ask Bruce Dickinson to write an extra verse, which was originally not present on the demo version of the song. I had about 5 tracks already demoed for a potential solo album. Steve heard them and got interested in 2, one of them being If Eternity Should Fail, and the other one was from the sessions of my solo album, Accident of Birth. It was called Nightmares and has never been recorded for an album. The track was written by me and Roy Z, so we couldn't use it for the Book of Souls. If Eternity Should Fail, on the other hand, was solely written by me, and it's about a strange machine that steals the souls of men. Steve wanted the song for Maiden and I agreed, but he wanted it to be longer, so I wrote an extra verse. To my knowledge, is the only Maiden song in drop D. Said Bruce Dickinson in a 2015 interview. But the most interesting thing is that one of the biggest differences between the 2 different versions of the song, and this indeed may sound very ironic, but is actually in its bass line.
It's just outrageous.
The bass part on the demo version of the track, which, in addition to the whole fact that it is very well audible, does take the lead of the entire melody from time to time. And although God knows I consider Steve Harris to be one of the greatest bassists on the planet, I absolutely love the work Roy Z did on bass in his living room on the demo track of If Eternity Should Fail. At the same time, I have to point out that I believe that it is definitely Steve Harris who was able to make the song sound truly Maiden-like. One of the most amazing things about this comparison is the whole fact that despite the songs being pretty much the same composition-wise, the feelings and the atmosphere which they generate are completely different. And as per the demo version of If Eternity Should Fail, it does actually sound like it would better fit on the first 2 Iron Maiden albums than on pretty much anything this band has written post their reunion with Bruce Dickinson. But either way, this release is truly a gift to every Iron Maiden fan, as it is absolutely incredible to see the evolution of this song and hear how its sound and structure, which for most part did remain the same, but still evolved from that recording in Roy Z's living room to the version we all heard on the Book of Souls and loved ever since. At the same time, this release did raise a couple of questions and spark my curiosity, as I simply cannot wait to hear how did it evolve to the version we will hear in a couple of months from today on the rewritten version of If Eternity Should Fail, which should make it on Bruce Dickinson's upcoming solo record. But still, even though I absolutely love the dark and moody demo version of If Eternity Should Fail as Bruce Dickinson has originally intended it to release, I'm still very happy that Steve Harris convinced Bruce Dickinson to include it on the Book of Souls. As the truth is that for me the Iron Maiden version does indeed sound significantly stronger, and not only because of the obvious difference in production, it's not even fair to compare a demo version to a final one, but also because of the magic Steve Harris and the Iron Maiden team were able to do with just small tweaks to make it sound rich, powerful, and undeniably Maiden-like. And after hearing it on the Book of Souls back in 2015, I actually did immediately include it in the list of my personal favorite tracks of the newest era of Iron Maiden. And what about you? What do you guys personally think about If Eternity Should Fail overall, and which version of the song, if you heard both, do you like the most? Please let us know in the comments. And by the way, I just wanted to point out that there are still a couple of these Christmas t-shirts and hoodies left in the store, so if you guys would like to rock one this holiday season, I would absolutely love to send it your way. Just check them out at metalpilgrim.net. But anyways, thank you so much for watching the short video, guys, but more than anything, thank you so much for supporting me, this show, and Ukraine through this very difficult time. We'll prevail. Slava Ukraini!